Hello and welcome to the Warmness Machine podcast. My name is Lindsay. This is a fiber arts podcast. I'm a crocheter, a knitter, and a spinner. And today's episode is 2025 year in review. And I will talk about everything from why I made certain things to why I didn't. Actually, there's no didn't. I don't even remember what I was supposed to make and didn't make. However, I do have notes. So let's get into it. I started 2025 with a hand injury. I popped something in my hand close to my thumb. And so I took quite a bit of time off. I think that I had started working on this sweater in 2024. And then because of that injury, went into 2025 and didn't do anything. I think I started maybe going back to it in May. And that would be the Grow sweater by Norah Gaughan. It comes from a book called Slow Knitting. I will put a link down to that below. Everything I talk about will be in the description box below. I used the Primrose Yarn Co. Forage, which is a worsted weight yarn that is woolen spun. It's a collaboration. It was a collaboration with Brooklyn Tweed. And the pattern did call for a Brooklyn Tweed yarn, which I thought this was just as similar. And they had a sale. So I picked up a bunch. I picked up what I needed. And I ended up finishing that. It was my first sweater I made for myself and my first cable knit sweater, as well as my first cable knit project. So I had to go back a few times. There are a few mistakes in there. You'll see that at some point I changed the skein of yarn. And so at some point there's like a demarcation line of darker yarn and lighter yarn at the top, which I just saw recently. And couldn't care less, okay? Because I'm not doing any switching of the yarns. What you see is what you get, okay? And that's me being a person. That's me being a real person, okay? So that was what I made. And after making that, I think I got a little hooked on cables, because what I love about a cable is that you're doing a cable row and then you're going back to just knitting and purling, whatever you're doing for that. And then you do a cable row. And it's so interesting. So that's what I really liked about it. The next things that I made twice. I made the Hobbit vest. It is a design by Chemery. I made the Hobbit vest with pocketses. One for my son, and I used Knit Picks palette in this green forest color. And palette is a fingering weight yarn, but I held it double because I did not want to make another fingering weight project. It's for children only, but I wish I could make it for myself and my husband. My husband's not into vests, but you see I am. By the way, this is the Harvey Wallbanger vest by, I'll put it on the screen and it will be in the description box below. But this is all made with my hand spun. So yay. It came out amazing. He had contrasting pocket colors. It is completely an original and I love that pattern. It is so easy to do. It's so well written, so straightforward, no fluff. And I recommend it for beginners who are making a garment, because, I think children's garments are so much easier than adults. So if this is something that you're trying to get into, make it and see. I then made it again for my daughter, and I used some yarn that I had purchased to dye with. So I had dyed with this yarn, and I had her go through my stash, and I said, what color do you want for this vest? And she also picked this. It is a BFL nylon blend. It is specifically sock yarn. And so I also held that double because it was a fingering weight yarn. And she loved it. It's a beautiful color. It's a beautiful color. I was a little sad that she picked it, but I'm not going to be that person that you pick a color, I'm going to tell you to pick something else. These two wear it all the time. And although it's the same pattern, it couldn't look more different on them. And they both just enjoy it. The only issue I think I had was with figuring out how many pockets to put, not pockets, buttons to put, but that's my own problem. And then I took a little bit of a break during the summer. I think I made my son's vest super quick. And then over the summer, I slowly made my daughter's. And then the fall came. It was about to be fall. And I decided to go to the Woolly Thistle and purchase some Lettlopi. I love the Woolly Thistle. It's an online yarn shop. They finally have a brick and mortar. I think it's in Vermont or New Hampshire, somewhere up there. These women are delightful. I always watch their podcast, their shopcast. And I bought the Lettlopi in the colorway 0085, like a gray. And I made the Felix cardigan by Amy Christoffers. So this is a worsted weight yarn, but you use bigger needles. And the drape on this thing, the lightness of this thing, it's a little scratchy, but this is why I use woolly wool, because I like the way that it feels so rustic. So, oh my goodness, I love it. It's one of my favorite things. It is kind of peeling. It's not peeling, pilling. It's those little knots that you get on. This is a great example because I spun this. This is a merino that was spun over the fold. Hello, that's gonna make it peel, but who cares, because it's the lightest, airiest thing. And so when you have a woolen spun yarn, you could do a lot with it, but it's just gonna be this light, airy thing on your body. And I love this thing. It just flew off the needles, as people love to say. I'm gonna use that. It did. And the cool thing is that I did short rows for the first time. And the eyelet detail on the raglan increases, amazing, and so much interest. And it was quick. I love a raglan sweater. A raglan sweater is where you have increases at the shoulder, front and back on both sides. And then it's kind of it's not boxy, but it should be a little bit baggier. It's not, if you're trying to look for something to be a little bit more fitted, I would say go with a set-in sleeve type sweater, which those are actually some of my favorites to make. The Grow sweater has a set-in sleeve. So yeah, I mean, a little bit more work for a set-in sleeve, but worth it every time. Now but again, raglan, all the sweaters have their place in your personal wardrobe, and this was where this went, and it was amazing. 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10. Would definitely make again. Might make it again. Definitely might make it again. I'm looking at my notes, so forgive me. I am also, after that, I took a little bit of a break. I did something smart and made something small. And that was the World's Simplest Mittens by Tin Can Knits. They are one of my favorite design duos. And I just picked whatever yarn we found in my stash that's DK weight. It's pink on pink on pink, because these were for my daughter. And lo and behold, they were too big because I made the child size instead of the toddler size. She is not a toddler. She is a child, but I guess she's on the cusp. So, c'est la vie. C'est la vie. After that, I decided to make the Ballard tee by Sari Nordlund, one of my favorite designers as well. I'll tell you a little bit, right after this, I'll tell you what I'm working on. Because this year I happened to take a class, and it was my only in-person class at one of my favorite yarn shops, but give me a minute, I get excited. So the Ballard tee, I used Sweet Georgia Yarns DK weight yarn in the colorway Deep Cove. As I was making this sweater and walking around town, I got so many compliments on the color. Oh my goodness. Sweet Georgia Yarns is based in Vancouver, Canada. And if you don't know where Vancouver is, obviously. But it is a delightful group of just creative people. And their motto is unapologetic color. And believe me, they they give it to you every time. So that is a short sleeve tee with cables. I already explained to you why I love cables, and I picked this because I really wanted to make a pattern out of her book, but I read the pattern wrong and it called for sport weight instead of TK weight. Now I used DK weight for this, and I only had like one skein of yarn left. I really thought I was gonna have so much yarn left over because I was making this sweater. I was a little nervous I wasn't gonna make it to the end. So kudos to me for making it to the end, because I don't like to play yarn chicken. The train is coming. Cargo trains have really been coming through. There's a commuter, it's not a commuter rail. I don't want to get involved in this, but you know that the rails are not owned by private companies. They're all owned by cargo. And so when Amtrak runs on it, they're basically, anyway, I don't want to get, I'm about to go on a full tangent, and that's not what I want to do today, because my husband stepped out with my son, my mom went to a Zumba class, my daughter's watching Paddington, and I want to give this to you as quickly as I can because we've been having a good time. Last but not least, I don't know when I made this, but I made a crochet bag, no pattern, just crocheted a bag, sewed up the edges, and then I sewed a lining on the inside. And this is where it gets interesting. Sewed a lining on the side, but before I did that, I said, I really want to get into embroidery. I've been watching a lot of embroidery on YouTube, and I'm still trying to get into embroidery. I love it as just a decorative piece. Embroidery is so cool and so unique and so creative, and just, I'm not very good at it. But this is like my little sampler bag. And I bought this bag because I didn't want to buy the Harris Tweed like little bag that was at Woolly Thistle, which now is no longer available because of the tariffs. So my husband did buy me one for Christmas because he loves me. But oh my goodness, this bag is so cute. Oh, I can't get enough of it, and it's so big. And when I was taking my daughter to swimming, and I was working on a summer top that I never finished, which we'll talk about later, this lady was like, I like your bag. I was like, thank you so much. Anytime somebody says something, all right now. So now we're going to talk about some lost projects. The Autumn Mice Socks by StoneKnits, also known as Charlotte Stone, who wrote Charming Colorwork Socks. I never finished it. I finished one sock and never touched it again. This is my first second sock syndrome situation. So keep me in your thoughts. Because I really do need to go back to that sock. And I love it. There are bobbles in it. It's got a lace detail on the toe, on the foot. What is not to love? Why can't I get back into it? And c'est la vie. I also, as I was saying, there was a crochet shirt that I was making for the summer, in the summertime. Don't do that, Lindsay. Anybody else, you know who you are. But for me, no. It didn't work. I can't even show it to you because it only has a back panel and barely a front panel. So when I finish that, everyone will know about it. So those are the lost projects. I didn't do that much spinning this year. I did, however, go to the Maryland Sheep and Wool Festival and buy close to a pound of Corieldale roving. Who wants to? I did it. That's for a long-term project that I am determined to work on for 2026. I started it, didn't finish it. Not even close, because it is this Stria cardigan by Andrea Mowry that I am making, and I know it's going to take me a long time. It is just, I think it's a fingering weight yarn, and I'm just trying to, I spun one skein of it, and I was like, I don't like the way this skein is really tight. Feels like sock yarn. Although when I spun a sample of it, it was way softer. So I'm going to switch my spinning up for that entirely because that one skein didn't come out the way that I wanted it to. I also have a bunch of stuff on some storage bobbins that I need to ply up. Don't talk to me about that. The other thing that I spun that I'm not quite finished yet, but very close, is I had this really beautiful braid of yarn from Sweet Georgia Yarns. It's like got mohair and silk and BFL, and it's like this incredible sock fiber. Not yarn, fiber. And I made just regular socks with it. And I finished most of it, but then I didn't split the braid up correctly. I also didn't do any color management for that at all. And I just, 3 sheets to the wind. I think that's a term. I gotta look it up. But yeah, basically, I just did what I wanted to do. I just wanted to spin, and I just didn't want to think about it. And I just wanted nice fiber in my hands. And that's going to be amazing sock yarn. So, last but not least, I did some gift making. I am working on the Laulu shawl by Sari Nordlund for one of my dearest friends. I love making something for a friend a year. And next year I have some real plans to do some real gift making that I've already scheduled. So excited about that. But yeah, that's one. And then I made a quilt for my son. When my son was in my belly, The Force Awakens came out. And there was Star Wars fabric galore. And I went and picked up 2 or 3 slabs of it, whatever I got. I still have so much left. And I decided after however many years this little boy's been alive and on planet Earth, I was going to do this. I was going to make the quilt. My godmother taught me how to sew when I was little. And I do have a sewing machine I got a few years ago, and I love it. It's just a regular brother. No frills, right? I mean, it's got a lot of frills, actually. My dad bought it for my birthday a couple years ago, and he's fancy. He's a little fancy guy, so he probably got the one that's got I got all the attachments, I got all the stuff. So thank you, Daddy. Okay, but good sewing machine. I sat down this year. I started maybe at the end of November, at the beginning of very beginning of December, and I just was slowly cutting strips, slowly getting back into the groove of it. And quilting is so much fun. Sewing is so much fun. I forgot how you are. First of all, the reason I love creating and being creative, because I don't actually feel creative all the time, is the fact that you are doing the math. The math is mathing every step of the way. You're calculating constantly. You're running simulations constantly, and people love to give, oh, it's just a woman's hobby, but you don't see all the people doing this stuff are intelligent. Okay. These people can read. So, and comprehension, reading literacy, all that. So it's always so fun to be in this space with you guys because we're all just these, crafty nerds and things. So hold on one second. My daughter's asking me a question. If you've never met someone who is an ice cream person, my daughter, okay, now you've met somebody. I don't need my notes anymore. So, that was really cool. It was really cool to make my son a quilt. this coffee in my hands, but I never drank it. It's the end of the year. Happy holidays to everyone. Happy New Year to you. I want to show you some of the books. One book. Two books that I have to recommend for you. One is a children's book and one is an adult book. I don't know where I got it from, but one day I will say where I got this book recommendation from. Let me grab them. The first book is a book from that I had picked up a few different quilting books because, you know, like I said, intellectual here. And I was on YouTube listening to, you know, a lot of podcasts. And this young lady said that she got her book from the library. And I said, I bet my library has that book. And my library did. Let me do it over here. It's called The Quilting Book, a step-by-step guide to patchwork and quilting. It is by Christina West and Casey Crutchfield. It is actually, it gives you so much of just basic techniques, basic things to know. And it has some projects at the end of the book, which I am going to try one. But I'm not into the projects. I didn't like them. I'm an old lady. Give me an old lady pattern. You know what I mean? I don't want nothing new unless it's, I didn't like the patterns in the back of the book, but the book is amazing. But I think it's also good because they have patterns that really show you, that correspond to the skills that you need to know. And so that's important, right? That's important. We know that. But again, I'm just trying to do strips and squares right now. I'm not at that point where I want to do a curve. So, but I can't, if you're a beginner, if you're coming back to it, look how thick it is. This is it. And it's pink. It's pink. My daughter was like, ooh, her favorite color is pink. So I'll show you one of the projects that I do plan on trying next year because I did find a quilting shop in my area and they were so nice. The way she asked me to get on their database was like, we have a database. Would you like to join it? Yes, I would. Yes, I would. That's how I live. You know, if you ask me like that, I can live like that. So it's this easy quilts to go. So these are just like simple stuff. So I'm going to try to make this little tote bag because I think we all know that I have a bag problem. Me and my daughter. How about that? Isn't it nice to share a problem with someone, but it's not really a problem. It's like a small obsession. Like, you know, us makers we're like, ooh, tell me more. And like me and my daughter are like, ooh, what a nice bag. So yeah, so this is my book recommendation to anyone who's thinking about getting into quilting. The Quilting Book by Christina West and Casey Crutchfield. And you can get it from your local library. So yeah. My second book is a children's book. It's in the juniors, but it is history. I was going to say historical fiction, but there's nothing fictional in this. This is a history book with stories, anecdotes, you know, stories about a group of women. So this book, and if you look it up on the internet, you'll find it so quick. The Quilts of G's Bend by Susan Goldman Rubin. Oh my goodness. So this details a small community, not just outside of Montgomery, I'd say a little bit west of Montgomery, Alabama. And what happened is after slavery ended, a group of Black people moved there. The land was bought by a white person, and then they became sharecroppers. They were incredibly poor. But the cool thing about it is everybody who moved to this community could quilt. All the women quilted. Generations of women quilting and using scraps and quilting from super duper young ages. And isn't that cool? First of all, that you have a community where you go in and everybody is a quilter. I I'm still so, like, just finding out about it is so astounding. And so it just talks about this community from beginning to end, end being, you know, modern times, but it talks about like just each individual person. The cool thing is that everybody there almost has the same last name. And so it's almost like, I don't know if you've read Gabriel, I'll put it on the screen. 100 Years of Solitude, where the people have the same names. That is magical realism. That's almost my favorite type of stories. But I love that book. That was one of my favorite books. So I'm going to show you this. This is called Stacked Bricks by Nettie Young from 1928. So I didn't read this to the kids. I read this to myself, actually. I found the book and I was just like, I wonder what it's about. And I was going to read it to the kids, but then I saw that most of it is writing. My kids will not abide all this writing, you know? They'll be like, it's boring, Mom, but it was super, super fun to me. And so much history, and so much creativity with using scraps. This one I'll show you is called Housetop. Housetop is like stacks of them, just strips. It can be strips with blocks or just strips. And there's a lot of them that are called housetops. It's a 20 block variation circa 1960 by Nettie Jane Kennedy. It's this one right here. So I found this book to be incredibly just nice to read, honestly. And there was a quote at the end of the book before the epilogue I'd like to share with you from Mincy Lee Pettyway. And she said, "A lot of people make quilts for your bed for to keep you warm, but a quilt is more. It represents safekeeping, it represents beauty, and you could say it represents family history." I love that. I love that. I have a lot of tattoos. I don't have a lot of tattoos. I only have 2 tattoos, but they're all like have words, you know? So like, I'm like, should I get that tattooed? No, Lindsay, you are not getting any more tattoos. And then at the back of the book, it says making a quilt square, and it gives you directions for that. Couldn't recommend this book more for anybody who's just like, here's some information. And obviously the notes is filled with footnotes. I love footnotes and image credits and things of that nature. So this book is called The Quilts of Gee's Bend by Susan Goldman Rubin. Well, that's my episode, my last episode of 2025. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate all the comments and it, you know, I don't have friends that do this near me, so being here is important to me, and I get to share this journey with you. So thank you so much. I wish you and your family all the happiness and joy for the new year, and I hope you have the best making coming up in the year ahead. Until then, Happy New Year, and I'll see you next year. Bye.